I'm trying to remember which story it is I'm supposed to tell you tonight. I've told you several stories over the year. Did I tell you Edward the Christmas Elephant? Yeah, okay. Astrid the camel, formerly known as Angry. If we did the camel one year, how about Ralph the Dancing Rat? Logos the Pelican? Oh, that was last year. We did Logos the Pelican. How about Carla the Caliente Chinstrap? Oh, I haven't told you that one. Okay, then we'll do that one. Carla was a penguin. A Chinstrap penguin to be exact. She lived in the South Sandwich Islands near Antarctica, where it's cold all the time. Very cold. Cold enough to make penguins happy, which all the Chinstrap penguins were, all except for Carla. You see, most penguins are happy just being penguins. They spend a good part of the day standing around in large groups huddled against the cold, and other parts of the day swimming in the cold pool or water looking for fish. Stand around, swim, stand around, swim. It's a penguin paradise. But not for Carla. She hated the cold. She was always shivering inside her feathers, even if she was in the middle of the flock. Also, this standing around stuff was for the birds. Carla wanted to move. She would find that her foot was tapping out most un-penguin-like rhythms in the middle of the cold night, until disgusted glances from the others would stop her. Finally, one particularly cold night, as Carla was shivering out near the edge of the flock, something seemed to snap within her. As her wings trembled uncontrollably, she unconsciously clapped them together. They made a loud sound like a rim shot on a drum, startling the penguins around her. She felt a little warmer from the exertion, so she tried it again. Yeah, that's doing something. She made up a little song to go along with the clapping. Some like it hot and some sweat when the heat is on. Okay, that's the part I need you guys to learn. Okay, here, I'll do it for you again. Some like it hot and some sweat when the heat is on. Can you do that? Well, let's try it anyhow. Some like it hot and some sweat when the heat is on. Then you gotta clap. Just like that, okay? She felt a lot warmer. Indeed, she was starting to feel hot. She did it over and over again to warm herself up. Let's try it. Some like it hot and some sweat when the heat is on. The penguin flock started to edge away from her. Carla turned and danced as she clapped her wings together. The air around her grew warm, the ice began to groan, but Carla didn't notice, caught up as she was in music and warmth. And finally, the ice gave a rending sound. Cracks appeared starting at Carla's feet and radiating out all over the ice sheet. With an ear-shattering sound, the sheet broke at Carla's feet and upended itself, throwing the whole flock into the icy polar water. She bobbed to the surface. Seconds later, thousands of other penguin hens broke the surface and all turned as one towards the sheepishly grinning Carla. After a show of wings, Carla was disinvited to join the flock as it found a new ice sheet. The next couple of weeks were hard for Carla. She found a new flock, or should I say she found several new flocks. Every time she would get settled, the cold night would invariably end with, some like it hot and some sweat when the heat is on. Flush of heat, cracking ice, and angry penguins. Finally, she had moved so far north that there were no more penguin flocks to join. She found herself on a small floe of ice that was drifting even further north away from the pole. It seemed like no one wanted her. She was different, so she was dangerous. Would she ever find acceptance? She shed a single tear as the ice moved slowly to the north. Carla drifted for a long time. She wasn't sure how long it was. The ice floe kept getting smaller and smaller as the water got warmer and warmer, which suited Carla fine, but she started to worry about whether she'd make it to shore or not. Finally, she spotted land, just as the last of the ice gave way and she slipped into the warm water. She made it to land quickly enough with her swimming abilities. It was a strange land with a beach, greenery, and very warm temperatures. She was thirsty from the swim, so she went inland looking for fresh water. Soon she came to a stream that ran clear and cool. She jumped in and drank deeply. When she came up out of the water, she saw a strange sight. A large gray mammal with an incredibly long articulated snout and huge ears drinking from the same stream. There was a small bird perched on its head just behind a small box that appeared to be strapped on tightly. She drew nearby and asked nervously, "Excuse me, would you happen to be it's an elephant." The elephant, for that is what it was, drew back and looked at her. "Why, yes, I am. Edward the elephant at your service. And you would be can't you see it's obviously a Chinstrap penguin, you elephantine oaf?" cried the bird on his head. The elephant sighed deeply. "And this is Germa, my oxpecker bird." "Interesting to see a penguin here," said Germa. "What are you doing in Ethiopia?" "Is that where I am? I kind of had to leave. I was making the other penguins nervous." "Nervous?" cried he. "See how nervous people get when you travel around with an elephant with a Jewish prayer box on his head." Carla looked closely at Edward. "Why do you have that on your head?" Edward sighed again. "It's a long story and we're on the way to Judea. If you want to travel along, I'll tell it to you." Carla had nothing better to do, so she climbed on Edward's back and listened to his story as they ambled further north. But that story is a different story for a different time. When Edward had finished his story, he asked, "So why did you have to leave Antarctica?" Carla told the story and ended by hopping off his back and demonstrating her infamous power. "Some like it hot and some sweat when the heat is on." Germa rolled over on his back laughing. "No wonder you had to leave. You could have started some kind of trend of global warming." Edward looked at her sympathetically. "It's hard to be different," he said, and he reached down with his trunk to pick her up and place her gently on his back. "Perhaps this Messiah I'm seeking will have an answer." Needless to say, they were not troubled as they traveled. An elephant with a box on his forehead with a penguin on his back. Most people simply disbelieved what they were seeing and looked the other way. When they finally reached Bethlehem, there was a lot of activity at a stable. Shepherds and sheep and donkeys and all sorts of people were coming and going. Carla got down off Edward's back and walked around at the front of the stable. She heard a crash from the other side of the stable that made the structure shake. She looked around, but Edward had gone somewhere else and was nowhere in sight. Her attention went back to the stable and she snuck inside the door. Despite being crowded, it was cold in here. Right after she got inside the door, a man walked in, which Carla took to be the baby's father. He shook his head sadly. "There's too many people in town. No firewood to be had anywhere here. We'll simply have to bundle up." The mother smiled sadly, took a blanket off her shoulders and placed it over the infant, who sneezed. Suddenly, Carla was seized with the recognition of her purpose. She looked around. Where could she get space in this crowded stable? The only place was the hearth, the fireplace, which was sadly empty. She boldly stepped into the hearth and raised her wings. This was where her whole life was pointing her. "Some like it hot and some sweat when the heat is on." At the first sound of the penguin singing and clapping, the baby's parents looked up in alarm. But then a glance passed between them as if this wasn't the strangest thing that had happened to them lately. Again and again, Carla sang and clapped and danced, and the stable grew warmer and warmer until the mother was actually pulling blankets off the child. All night long, every hour, Carla would sing and clap. The stable was kept warm with her movements. At one point, a rat even got up on the side of the manger and danced to Carla's rhythm, which delighted the baby. Later that night, after everyone had gone to sleep, she heard the baby stir and walked over to the edge of the manger and peered in. It was the most extraordinary human baby Carla had ever seen. He had a smile on his face that seemed to light up the room. He locked eyes with Carla, and understanding flowed between them. "Thank you," he said inside her head. "You're welcome," she seemed to say back. "I've never fit in anywhere, but I do here." "Everyone fits in here," he said, "even a penguin who hates the cold," and he smiled. "Why am I different?" she asked. He seemed to shrug. "The world needs all different types. Tonight it needed a penguin with a warm heart, a heart warm enough to heat the whole world." After they parted ways, Carla never again questioned what her purpose was. She traveled from place to place, moving north in the winter and south in the summer, giving warmth and cheer wherever she went. She became known as Carla the Caliente Chinstrap, a legendary figure in the ancient world. Now you might ask, if she was there at the Nativity, Why is there not a penguin in the manger scene? Well, it's actually pretty obvious. Most nativity scenes don't have fireplaces. But the ones in Antarctica do. And in every Antarctic manger kept by penguins and polar bears alike, there's a fireplace with a penguin standing with her wings upraised, singing and clapping. Let's try it one more time. Some like it hot and some sweat when the heat is on. And that is how Carla the Caliente Chinstrap saved Christmas and how she simultaneously launched Robert Palmer's career.